Hi, I'm Taylor with Mom on the Spectrum, and today we're going to be talking about Autistic Joy and also the challenges that come along with experiencing something very intensely. I was recently gifted an incredible opportunity to go see Taylor Swift in Dallas, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about what that was like in terms of Autistic Joy and the recovery that has needed to happen afterwards and is still happening 10, 11 days later. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Taylor. I am a late diagnosed mom of two, and I discovered that I was autistic at the age of 31. I'm 34 now, and it totally changed my life. It helped me have more self-compassion and grace and understanding for the way that my brain works. I've always thought that maybe I needed to change how I showed up in the world, but now just realize that I'm unique and I'm better able to understand my patterns. So I create resources to help other people do the same. And if that sounds like something that might be helpful to you, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel and become part of the community. It's really a great place here. There's so many incredible people, and I would love for you to join us. So let's jump in with Autistic Joy. What is Autistic Joy? It's basically just a very intense experience of something that makes you really happy. So if you're not new to the channel, you've probably heard me talking about autistic inertia, or maybe you've attended one of my workshops where we kind of explore this idea that whenever we're doing something, it's really hard to stop doing something. Whenever we're not doing something, it's really hard to start doing something. And I think this is related to the experience of Autistic Joy, as well as the idea of uneven productivity, which is another thing we talk about on the channel. This idea that we can focus very intently on something and get a whole lot of stuff done, but on the other side of that, kind of enter this period of burnout and need a lot of recovery time to get back to where we were. So all of those ideas, I think, support this experience of Autistic Joy, in that whenever we lean into the things that make us really happy, it's kind of like a black hole that we don't come out of for a long time. And it can have a pretty intense effect on our nervous systems. So this happened to me at the Taylor Swift concert. And first of all, some of you might be wondering, how do you go to a concert as an autistic person? Isn't that completely overwhelming? And everybody's going to have a different answer here. But for me, I would say that immersing myself in a concert experience is one of the most healing, cathartic things that I can do for myself. I love driving and listening to really loud music. It's a place that I can... It's an activity that I can do that makes me feel safe, and it helps me disconnect from my brain a little bit. That's something I talked about in another recent video, this brain-body disconnect that we tend to have as autistic adults, where we spend a whole lot of time up here and kind of disconnect from the feedback that our body's giving us. So when it comes to the concert scene, I love it because it's all about the music. There's no other expectations on you. You're not expected to have a conversation with the person next to you. You're just there and you're present with the music. And it's one of the only times that I feel like my brain actually turns off. Now, experiencing that has some consequences as a delayed processor, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. It can take me a while to come down from those experiences, and it actually ramps up my nervous system quite a lot, to the point that it can be pretty uncomfortable. But I do love concert experiences. I love loud music, and I don't know, if you're similar to me, let me know in the comments. So how it happened, I found out 3 days before the concert that I was going to get to go. I was gifted tickets by a very special, important person, and I actually got to see her from a suite. It was just like the coolest. So of course I had to take my best friend Molly. We've been long distance best friends for over 20 years. She's in Wisconsin, I'm in Fort Worth. And I called her at work. She was in a meeting, and I texted her and I said, I'm fine, but you have to call me immediately. And so she booked a plane ticket. She was going to get here the day before the concert, but her flight got canceled because of weather. And so we were freaking out. She ended up coming in the day of the concert. She had a couple of hours with my kiddos who adore her. So after that, we went to the concert and just had such an incredible experience. We were there for probably 7 hours. Like, we got there as soon as we could. And it felt like I was there for like 20 minutes. I really don't know how the time passed so quickly. I was looking back at the videos the next day, and Molly was laughing at me because I basically only took videos of me and her dancing, and I took very, very few videos of Taylor. And also the videos reflect that I was very into the moment. So I was screaming way louder than I thought I could for really long periods of time. I was jumping constantly, dancing. I mean, just the energy coming out of my body, I was like, I don't remember that. Like, I was totally lost in the moment. Very euphoric, immersive experience that we, of course, will be talking about until we're old and gray. But back to when I got the tickets. So I feel like there's another really great example of what this experience is like in Heartbreak High, which is a show on Netflix. And Chloe Heaton is an autistic actor who plays an autistic character, Quinny. And Quinny, in one of the episodes, is prepping for her special interest, which I think is like a book reading, I think, from one of her favorite authors. And so it goes into detail in terms of what the planning looks like for her. She plans the transportation and the time schedules and what she's going to wear and her makeup. She has everything planned down to the smallest detail. And it also kind of goes into what happens when those details are messed with. So that's a really interesting exploration of this idea if you're interested. But I was thrown into this, right? So 3 days before the concert, I find out we're going. And if you're on the spectrum, you know what research mode is, right? And my research time was cut so short. But for me, for an experience like this, I'm planning for months, right? I want to know what I'm going to wear. I need to plan out my route that I'm going to take. I need to check the weather. I need to look up maps of the arena and see which restaurants are close, what's on the menu. I need to know like where the bathrooms are. But even beyond that, I have to create like a visual model of what to expect when I go. And I have to kind of picture what it's going to be like in each stage, because transitions can be really hard for me too. So I work through all the transitions in my mind. In addition to that, I have to know how things work. So I want to know about the stage design. I want to know about the production team. I want to know who the choreographer is. I want to know how the concept art was created. It's like I need to know all the inner workings of the tour and what the music means. And for autistic people who love, generally speaking, love finding patterns and connections, Taylor Swift is like our dream, because she's like, here, let me create an all-you-can-eat buffet of connections and like secret meanings and symbols. She's a creative genius. So she's already set the stage for that, if you will. Just creating this landscape for me to explore of connections. And so my brain immediately, it just like went into research mode. And again, the brain-body disconnect where I got lost up here, got super anxious, nervous, excited, and this started affecting my eating and my sleeping. It also gave me heart palpitations. That's where your heart like kind of flutters and you can feel it in your chest, and it feels, to me, very uncomfortable, and it freaks me out. I could feel my heart beat. I could feel my heart beating faster, and I'm still dealing with some of the palpitations 10, 11 days later. It is getting better, but my nervous system, from the time I found out I got the tickets, has just been shot. Like, it feels like it's just totally out of whack. So it affected my sleep for obvious reasons. I was anxious. I couldn't get sleep. There were too many things to think about, too many things to plan. And then eating was really affected. I've talked recently in a video about eating disorders and how it affects the autistic community. There's one disorder called avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. And so this can make... With this, it might feel like it's harder to eat than it needs to be. Like, eating is a chore, and the texture of food might be kind of upsetting. And so I noticed myself kind of slipping into this when I was on edge and super anxious and nervous. I was only able to eat like very specific types of safe foods that had like very straightforward textures. And I only ate because I knew I had to. Like, eating felt like a chore, and it's getting better. Like, I feel like I'm noticing, for me, it ebbs and flows in different stages of my life. But my eating was greatly affected, and it very quickly became a chore. We're like, oh, okay, I've got to make myself eat every day in order to take care of myself. And so all of these dominoes started falling that I couldn't keep up with. And the concert happened, and then, you know, I talked about how euphoric that was and just being in the moment. But on the other side of that, there's this delayed processing. So with delayed processing, we can have these experiences, but not fully be able to integrate them for days or weeks afterwards. So, you know, I'm still having moments where I'll kind of relive I'll relive a moment as if it's actually happening, and understanding it for the first time and making connections for the first time. And so that takes a lot of cognitive bandwidth, and that's still happening 10, 11 days after the concert. In order to take care of myself, since my nervous system has felt so out of whack, a massage felt like a necessity. Like I couldn't do anything until I got a massage. I've been waking up and just staying in bed. My executive functioning has been totally off, like haven't been able to organize or plan or structure my days. I've been taking like hour-long baths every day. I have a membership at my chiropractor. It's like I have to do all these things to keep my body in check. And it's been to the point that it's like so overwhelming this week. I'm like, okay, I went to the doctor. I'm like, can you please tell me that everything's okay with me? I'm so bent out of shape with events like this. And I know other people too, like it's going to take a lot out of you to go to a Taylor Swift concert, no matter who you are, right? The crowds, the walking, the noise, everything. But for autistic people, generally speaking, it's like it can really impact our work. It can impact our relationships. It can affect our nervous system in ways that have like a long effect. It's not just like I need a day or two to recover. It's like, okay, this is characteristic of my month. Like this is what happened this month. So it happens in a bigger, more intense way. And when we know these patterns, when we understand that it's going to cost us more to engage in certain activities, we can kind of structure our time and our schedules and our requirements to reflect that. You know, if we've got a big experience, we can make sure that we don't schedule things the days or weeks after that, and just build in more time for self-compassion and grace, and reminding yourself that you have a different way of experiencing the world and processing things, and it's not good or bad, it just is. And honestly, the quickest way to recovery is to accept that, not to try to make yourself operate in a different capacity, because you can't. Just accept the way that you do function. Allow yourself the space to feel through that and to process through it. And you'll come out on the other side. It might not be in the time frame that you want it to be in. But when we force ourselves to do things in a way that's not natural, it only complicates and elongates the process. And as we're talking about regulating ourselves and helping our nervous systems out, if you haven't already seen my latest and greatest fidget toys, these have replaced everything in my house, because I have fidgets in every room in my house, all different kinds, and the only ones I'm using now are the Ono rollers. So I showed this in my recent video about stemming, and if you're a late diagnosed autistic adult, it's super important to relearn the art of stemming if it's been trained out of you. I thought this was really heavy until I tried the steel Ono roller, and this is at least 2 or 3 times heavier than this baby. So this is not like something I'd want in my purse because it's that heavy, but it's great on my desk. There's also a mini version of it, the Ono mini roller. These are great, and they like get warmer as you're holding them. They feel really comforting. This one you can put in the freezer, I think, and roll it anywhere. It's very soothing, and they're great. So if you're interested in trying out a new fidget toy, little stems like that can really help with regulating yourself throughout the day, especially if you're in a place where you can't really move, like if you have to sit at your desk or you have to be in a meeting, whatever. Fidget rollers are really great to help kind of regulate that nervous energy that you might have in your body. If you're interested, I'll put the link in the description, and you can use the code MOMONTHESPECTRUM for 10% off your order at checkout. So if this concept was interesting to you or it resonated with you, let me hear from you, like about one of your Autistic Joy experiences, because I'd love to know what brings you that much joy. And if you have any like regulating tips or recovery tips that you can share with the community, like this video if it was helpful to you. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about yourself and your patterns, because I really feel like when we develop greater self-compassion and understanding for our patterns and what makes us unique, the needs that our own bodies and brains have that might look different from other people, when we build room for more grace there and more compassion, when we come at that with a sense of curiosity rather than judgment, that has profound effects ripple effects on the world around us. That's how we create more kindness and love and support and safety. So I want to thank you for taking the time to cultivate that within yourself today. I'm so glad you're here, and I look forward to interacting with you in the community, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.